Hey everyone, my name is Raya and I am from Bulgaria. I really hope that you have heard about Bulgaria, but if you haven't, it is located in Eastern Europe and it's one of the countries with the oldest cultures and history. Our heritage is tremendous. Although many of you may not know this, we offered a lot to the world. But enough about that. Let's get straight to the point we all know and love. The Mandela effect. It affected me. It affected me so much when I first heard about it, read about it, when I spent weeks and weeks of researching and assuring myself that there's been a shift, a movement, a replacement of reality, and all the other hundreds of theories and quantum explanations. But then I took a breath and examined some very important aspects of the Mandela effect, which I hadn't previously looked at. And by the way, not many people have either, to this very day. I want you to know that I will not be discarding anything. I will just offer another perspective or a fresh new look on the whole subject of ME, since it has become a mess, really. For several weeks and even months now, everyone claims to have the one and only solution to the seemingly unsolvable Mandela equation. So, in my opinion, even if someone is on the right path to discovering the truth, they may go into the rabbit hole just deep enough to forget about common sense and from there to unintentionally divert from what is resembling the truth the most. In such scenarios, the people discussing ME and a couple of other phenomena tend to give a little bit more power to their imagination than is required. People who are, of course, otherwise incredibly intelligent and sincere, no doubt about that whatsoever. So let's start from the beginning, shall we? We are triggered by a certain change. We experience a slightly different memory of what is now. However, what most of us fail to understand is that this, by itself, is really a small thing. What I'll ask you to do now is to pick one change, your favorite one, whether it is a movie quote, a product name, a geographical change, I don't care. What I want you to do is to strip it out of its emotional properties, the initial shock, the excitement that you're experiencing something others are not, the fear that you may have that somebody is messing with your reality. No matter what it is, remove it. Take away the whole emotional aspect of your Mandela change. Take away your emotional response, your reaction to it. So what are you left with? You are left with just a discrepancy between your psychological reserve, memory, and the factual state of affairs. Just that, nothing dramatic, nothing too shocking. So now what? You have to decide what theory to obtain. Of course, one of the hypotheses could be that there are shifting realities, and the essence of such theory would be a quantum shift or anything related to the quantum realm. Another possibility, however, and bear with me here, could be an entirely psychological one. You'd be surprised how many changes in this world are actually changes within ourselves, changes of our own mind, consciousness, worldview, of our connection to the environment. Remember that the human psyche is far more complex than any other algorithm, and it's still shrouded in mystery. Human psychology is the most fascinating subject to be dealing with, especially right now because all those changes they start in our own minds, in our psyche. So, is our reality changing, or are we? And if we consider the latter, what are we influenced by? I'll ask you to open your minds and hear me out for a minute as I read an excerpt from Wikipedia. Memory conformity, also known as social contagion of memory, refers to a situation in which one person's report of a memory influences another person's report of that same experience. Research on memory conformity has revealed that such suggestibility has far-reaching consequences with important legal and social implications. 3 ways that contribute to memory conformity are normative influences, information influences, and memory distortion. I will not look at these 3 ways individually, but you can research them for yourselves. I will put a link in the description below. For now, I will just try to illustrate memory conformity with a typical example. So, in cases of police interrogation, specific leading questions are reported to alter eyewitness memory. Eyewitness, the things people saw with their eyes. So, as you can see, it turns out that the pictures that we incorporate in our short or long-term memory could change according to the questions we're being asked and the information we're being given. I would like to make another point here as well. Have you ever heard of the Baader-Meinhof Phenomenon? If you haven't, then you just might hear about it again very soon. I'll explain. Baader-Meinhof is the phenomenon where one stumbles upon some new piece of information and soon afterwards encounters the same thing again and again, repeatedly. So anytime a person says a phrase like, "That's so weird, I just heard about that the other day," they are swimming deep in the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon. So that's kind of what happens to us, the Mandela effect followers, isn't it? We always stumble across new and new changes, some discovered by other people, some discovered by ourselves. And not only that, but the changes we're already familiar with are getting so much in our faces that it's starting to feel weird. Some people have said that they cannot even watch a movie normally, or go to a store anymore without searching for clues of product changes. It's crazy. But how does the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon relate to the Mandela effect? So, let's say we've just heard about the Jiffy peanut butter change. All of a sudden, synchronicities with Jiffy start to pop up. For example, we see a huge billboard of Jif while driving, or an ad of Jif in an unusual place, and because patterns are so comfortable to us, we start to rewind our brains into believing these coincidences and synchronicities mean something. We say to ourselves, "Oh, that's weird, I just heard that Jiffy changed and now it's all over the place. It must mean something. All these synchronicities and stuff, they must be a signs from the universe that something is going on." But are they really? You see, even synchronicities like these, they are a psychological phenomenon. They alone have very little significance. All these details that seem to pop up out of nowhere have actually always been there. It's just that your brain wasn't interested enough to process them as useful information and store them in your memory. Everything occurs in our psyche first, and what happens in the outside world is just the result, not the trigger for it. The Baader-Meinhof phenomenon is a proof of that, a key concept which is really fascinating. I suggest you check out a video on the subject by Nerdwriter1, who I respect so much as a YouTuber and researcher. I'll post the link to the video down below. I guess what I'm trying to say here is that the psychological perspective of the Mandela effect tends to be somehow overlooked. I wanted to show you guys that our memories can be very fragile, and they are variables. They are not at all constants. Not only that, but they can be influenced by none other than our fellow humans, who are the ones mistaken in the first place. We are social beings, and that's totally normal. In fact, it's a sign of sociopathy if somebody is not influenced by the feelings, emotions, and why not memories of their peers. It's just part of our psychology. Many people can indeed be influencing each other, believe it or not. We are all part of the so-called collective unconscious, a term coined by Jung, and if you haven't heard about that, please check it out. Lots of things will finally make sense when you read it. Maybe I'll put some links about that too. But Jung's main idea was that there are structures of the unconscious mind which are shared among beings of the same species, in our case, humans. So, we are more psychologically and sometimes even telepathically linked than you may think. But that's a whole another story which deserves its own video, so I'll just try to wrap things up. I'll finish with a summary of my ideas. There is a psychological side to the Mandela effect, which in my opinion is more important than the scientific one, since we can get much more reasonable facts when we account for our own psychology rather than the outside world. Theorizing about quantum shifts, simulation theories, time travel, certain connections, etc. is like feeling your way in the dark. It's tricky and one could bump against obstacles at any time. I believe that our theory processes should be reversed. We must start with examining the human mind and its properties, errors, and unusual rare phenomena, and only then can we move on to the physical reality. As unmagical as it may sound, the Mandela effect could in fact be explained through the memory conformity phenomenon. Those who experience the effect are also further influenced by their own emotional reaction, the accounts of their peers, the appealing nature of the whole mystery, and last but not least, by the Baader-Meinhof Phenomenon, or in other words, by the illusion of synchronicities. So please remember that we are sometimes deceived and tricked by our own brains. Our brains are capable of distorting our perception, all 5 of our senses, and our memory. Just think about all the optical illusions. Why can't there be memory illusions as well? For all we know, all the collective memory errors could be a strange attempt of the brain to unite us under a certain community. I'm sure that the Mandela community on YouTube could relate to that. And these collective errors are not necessarily a bad thing. It's all human, you see. To err is human. It's part of our nature, and that's how we, as social beings, show to the world that we want to belong. Thank you for listening. I will be expecting your questions, theories, arguments, and suggestions in the comment section below. Take care.